Hello there and welcome to another Wargame Red Dragon tutorial video with me, Bubblebox, and today we're having a look at the Redfor ships in the deck system. In the last video we had the blue 4 ships in the deck system. Now the red 4 ships are definitely a little bit more powerful than the blue 4 ships overall, although don't worry about that because the blue 4 aircraft are a lot better than the red 4 aircraft in the marine decks. So let's have a look at the red 4 ships. Well, this is one of my favourites. It's the Django. I think it's good because it's a really nice all-rounder. The ship looks okay. It's got these eight nice anti-ship VJ-82 anti-ship missiles with a nice accuracy and stabilizer at 65%. And it's also got some HQ-7 anti-aircraft missiles with a range of 2,800 against both aeroplanes and helicopters, again with a very nice accuracy and stabilizer of 60%. It's got some armour, the standard armour for the big warships at 4 front, 2 side and 2 back. And it's also got a bow gun it's got in fact a dual bow gun, I think, is it? Yeah, a dual bow gun with a range of 4,003. When it says dual, I think it means it's just got 2 turrets out of it, because there's not one on the back, is there? So I think it means 2 turrets on the bow there. Range 4,375 meters against land targets, and can also shoot at helicopters, and to a limited degree can shoot at airplanes of a very short range as well. The good thing about this dual PJ-33A and these HQ-7s is that they make up the anti-missile defense system for this warship as well, which gives it a very good close-in weapon system rating, which is really what you want in these big ships. So get a couple of these together, they will be able to defend themselves pretty well against a few anti-ship missile attacks. It's average speed, it's got a decent-ish strength, not the best in the world, but a decent strength of 150. Again, it's just for 160 points, it's just a really nice all-round ship, and I think you get a fair few of them in your deck as well. Next we've got the Luda, and yeah, I'll just compare the Luda in fact to the Django. So this is the Luda, looks a little bit more old-fashioned. It costs, stop trying to pin the Django and look at the Luda. There we are. So it costs 150 points compared to the 160 points of the Django. So the Django's are only 10 points more, but they're fairly similar in many ways, but not similar in other ways. And I'll tell you why I would definitely take the Django over the Luda in my decks. The Luda has its anti-ship missiles, but they have a shorter range of 6,125. But this isn't why I wouldn't take them, because these missiles are more powerful with an AP power of 100 compared to the Django's 80, and the accuracy and stabilizer aren't too shabby as well. It's also got this dual type gun, which is very similar to the one on the Django, and you can shoot at ground units actually at a longer range than the one in the Django, and you can also shoot at helicopters and aeroplanes as well, to a limited degree against aeroplanes. And it's got this dual type 76F as well for shooting at helicopters and aeroplanes, and also at ground units as well on the Luda. Now the only thing I think lets the Luda down is look at the CIWS medium, whereas the CIWS on the Django is very good. And that's because this gun, the dual type here, doesn't take part in the anti-missile defense system for this ship, which is the only the thing that really lets it down. It's got average speed, so if I was choosing between the two, I'd definitely go for the Django. Although you could of course get both into your deck, I suppose. And then we move on to the Nanjing. Now the Nanjing is another one of these short-range anti-ship missile ships with an accuracy of 450 and a stabilizer of 50 and an AP power of 160, which is huge, but it only has 2 missiles, costs 120 points, and the strength's 180, which is quite good actually strength for a ship. It's got this gun at the front which can shoot fairly long range against ground targets, and can also shoot helicopters and aeroplanes, and the dual type 66, which can again shoot ground helis and aeroplanes at an okay kind of range. It's got the normal armor. Strength 180 makes this quite a strong thing. CIWS is only medium though, so you've got to be careful with this thing, and the speed is a little bit slow, looks a little bit old-fashioned. Not my favourite, but I do see a lot of people bring these in a fair bit, so I think you actually get quite a few of them in your deck, and I guess they're quite good for ground support once it's used its 2 Nanjing termite missiles up as well. Next, we've got absolutely awesome destroyer type warship, the Sovremenny. Probably, in my opinion, probably the best ship in the game. Some people will say it's the udeloid too, but I think it's the Sovremenny, mainly because it's the best attack ship in the game for definite. The udeloid 2 is a bit better on defense. I'll talk about that in a minute, but the Sovremenny is definitely the better ship on the attack. It's got a strength of 250, which is really, really good. It can take a lot of hits. It's got these really, really powerful Musket missiles. Look at that range, 9,450, 120 AP power with an accuracy and a stabilizer at 70%. These things are deadly. It's also got these Stil 1 missiles, which take part in the anti-missile defense system, which can shoot at helicopters at a nice long range of 3,500 and aeroplanes at a really long range of 4,550 as well, with a good accuracy and stabilizer at 60%. So that's a pretty damned awesome weapon as well. And it's also got a really nice dual bow gun. In fact, it has this time got one at the back and one at the front, I believe. Lots of rounds, but look at that range, over 5,000 meter range against ground targets. That is excellent. And then it can shoot against helicopters and aeroplanes as well. So 3 really powerful, really good weapons on this ship. A really powerful attack ship, and it's got very good CIWS, so can certainly look after itself, and if it's with other ships can look after those as well whilst out on the prowl. Then we've got the other monster that the Redfor Navy has at its disposal, the udeloid 2. It's got exactly the same P-270 Musket missiles. All the stats are exactly the same as the Sovremenny. It's got a different anti-air weapon. It's got the 3K75 Kinzai, which does form part of the DEF, the anti-missile defense system as well. And it can shoot at helicopters, airplanes at a good range, and has got a good accuracy and stabilizer. But that's not quite as good as the Sovremenny's anti-air weapon, but it's still damn good. And then it's got the dual AK-170MR gun. I think one at the just at the front, I think. Yep. And again, nice long range against ground units, can shoot helis and aeroplanes as well. The thing that makes this thing really good is its exceptional CIWS. This can take an awful lot of punishment, and with a strength of 300 as well. The second best, well, this and the Sovremenny are pretty much on a par. This is slightly better in a defensive position, and the Sovremenny is slightly better in an attacking position, I guess. It's got an ECM of 40% as well. Fantastic ships. Could look at them all day long. They look awesome. Then we've got the Chongyu. A little change of pace here. Look at this little thing. This is a riverine ship. Can go out all the way up rivers. It costs 80, and it's actually a floating artillery piece with a little bit of a cannon on the front as well, a naval gun on the front as well, and a little medium machine gun. So this really, the main weapon on this is the rocket artillery piece. It's got a nice lot of rounds, 160 rounds, so can keep firing for a long time, pretty much most of a game without having to get refills. And it's got the standard kind of dispersion, decent range, and you know, it's just a floating rocket artillery piece really. You wouldn't use these weapons really unless, yeah, you'd probably keep it out of harm's way and just use the rocket artillery, ignore these weapons really to a certain extent. Strength of 40, so not that strong. Of course it's got no CLWS, it doesn't need it because it's a riverine. Next we've got the Hijuan. 110 points, a bit of an older looking ship, although it is a 1991 actually, so it shouldn't look that old, but it does look a little bit jaded, I guess. Anyway, it's got some nice ship-to-ship missiles for only 110 points here, the Hijuan, with, you know, nice accuracy, nice stabilizer, a nice, a really nice range, pretty damned awesome ship-to-ship weapon, this really. And it's got some good CIWS with this Type 69 CIWS weapon here, and also with this dual Type 76F gun or cannon here as well, which can also shoot against ground units, helicopters and aeroplanes. So really this is one of the good sort of ship-to-ship missiles for the Redfor side. Get quite a few of these in your deck, I think, if you choose these. The Hijuan. Next we've got the Komar. Now a lot of people bring this in for one particular reason, because they're rivers. They're riverines. They can't be shot at by anti-ship warfare planes for anti-ship warfare missiles, but they do carry 2 anti-ship warfare missiles themselves. The P-15 Termit, very powerful, 160 points, and shorter range, so it needs to get close, but this range is pretty much, I think, pretty much outside the bow gun range of most large ships. So get this thing in there, get them in a bunch, maybe 4, maybe even 8 of these guys, all firing their missiles at the same, and turn them straight round back to your resupply ships and get them resupplied again before they get killed. So have a specific use. They're fast as well, so they can get in and out, sort of shoot and scoot weapons, I suppose you would call them. Then we've got Komar Musket next, I think. The Musket is kind of a little bit like the Komar, but not quite like the Komar. It's got 4 of these P-15 Termit missiles instead of the 2 in the Komar. The Komar actually only costs 40. This costs 60. You might think that's good value because you get 4 missiles instead of 2, but this is a coaster and it can be shot down by other big ships, anti-ship missiles as well. So it's fast again, strength isn't fantastic, and it's got bad CIWS. So I'd probably go for the Komar over the Musket personally, but that's just a personal choice. You might think a little bit differently. It's got this little CIWS weapon here, but it has got bad CIWS, remember, so don't let that fool you. Next we've got the Muna. The Muna is your supply vessel. Massive supply in this thing, 15,000 litres. It is quite slow at 14, so you need to keep it out of harm's way really, and it takes a little bit of time to catch up with your fleet if your fleet's on the move. Strength is 100, so it can take a little bit of a hit. It's a riverine. Now it is a riverine, but this can be targeted by anti-ship missiles. I don't quite understand that, because I thought riverine ships were not meant to be targeted by anti-ship missiles, but the LCUs for the Bluefor and the Muna for the Redfor can actually be targeted by them, even though they're riverines. I don't know if that's meant to be in the game, I'm not sure, but that's the case at the moment for sure. So like I say, loads of supply, 120 points, and we'll keep your ships resupplied with ammo all day long. The Muna. Next we've got the Nanushka. I see a few people get these in. They're not bad. 120 points for an 80 strength point ship with 6 nice P-120 Malakit missiles. Again, you need to get close. They're shorter range than the standard types of anti-ship missiles, but they've got a nice stabilizer and a huge AP power. If they hit, they're going to do a lot of damage. They've got some nice anti-air defences as well with these OSA Ms, with a range against helicopters of 2.8 and against airplanes of 2,500 with a nice Aquasin stabilizer again. They're fairly fast, or averagely fast, at 27. The CIWS is only medium, so you've got to be a little bit careful with these things, and you've got an AK-176 bow gun which can shoot at ground units and also at helicopters and airplanes to a certain extent as well. I say bow gun, it's actually on the rear, I think, it's just there. Okay, on the stern gun. So next, that's a Nanushka. What have we got next? We've got the Shanghai. Shanghai, it's not that impressive boat really. It's a riverine. It looks a bit like a fishing boat with someone stuck a couple of guns on, to be honest. It's got 2 auto cannons. Costs only 30 points, and you might think, well, 30 points for 2 auto cannons isn't that bad. With a strength of 50, you can take a little bit of punishment and bash away at some units on the beach, and you can shoot down helicopters and airplanes. Yeah, it can do those things, but the thing that swings it for me is, why would you get this when you can get a much more powerful weapon in its place in your deck? So I generally don't bring in these little things because I can do that. Unless you've got a very specific deck, I guess, for a very specific task, and you need these things to complete that task. Next, we've got the Shantu. Shantu is another little one, and this one is probably even worse than the Shanghai. It's still 30 points, same as Shanghai. You will get a lot of these things. It's got 1 auto cannon, Oh, actually a dual autocannon. So it's got one there and one there, which are goodish against airplanes and helicopters, I guess. You could use them for anti-air cover for your ground units. And then it's got this recoilless gun stuck on the stern, on the front here, on the bow. So range of 1925. You know, I'm really not convinced that is really a weapon at all. Looks like it's just going to snap off if someone walks into it. So it's slow, it's not got high strength, it only costs 30, you get a lot of them, but this recoilless gun is pretty useless in game, certainly in multiplayer. So I probably won't get that in my decks, not my favourite. Then we've got the Schmel. The Schmel is another artillery piece. We looked at one artillery piece earlier. This is similar. It's a rocket artillery piece again. It's got a fair amount of ammo, although I think the previous one had more ammo than this. The previous one had a shorter range. This has got a longer range, so that's really the difference between the two. The rest of the stats are pretty much the same. It's got a strength of 50. It is a riverine, just like the other rocket artillery boats that we had a look at. It's also got a little bit of protection against helicopters and aeroplanes that can come in handy. And a little main gun there which can shoot at ground units, probably wouldn't get much use. So there's another rocket artillery piece if you want to shoot rockets all over the map during the game. Then we've got another of the players' favourites, the Torrential, as I call them, tarantulas, or the Torrential 3s. These have got the same really powerful missiles as the Sovremenny and the udeloid 3, but these only cost 145 points, of course. So yeah, all the stats the same for the Musket missile, really powerful, 4 of them. So if you bring in like a Mooner with these for resupply and keep these at a distance from the rest of the enemy, these can fire all day long and take out ships for you, as long as you can keep them at a distance. The CIWS is good, but it's not brilliant. I mean, if you had a few of these things and had maybe a udeloid next to them, they're going to be pretty well protected, with maybe a bit of air cover as well. We've also got some Strellas for a little bit of air protection, although not fantastic range for a ship. And you've got your AK-176, which you can shoot at ground units, helicopters, and a limited amount at aeroplanes as well. So the CIWS good, I've mentioned that. They're pretty fast as well at 35, and they've got a strength of only 60, which isn't brilliant, but they're only 145 points. Remember, they've got an ECM of 20%, so not too shabby at all. And that's about it, I think, for the Redfor side. And in the next video, we'll start to have a look, the next tutorial video, we'll start to have a look at the planes and the ground anti-ship weapons that are available in the game as well. So thanks very much for watching. Please do comment, like and subscribe if you like these vids, and I'll see you in the next one.